Welcome to The Simple Fix, a myth-free movement podcast from KezaWellness. I'm Kerryn, your host, a coach who blends strength, Pilates, and pain science so that you can move well, feel great, and live boldly without the hype. Welcome back to The Simple Fix. I am your host, Kerryn, and today we are joined in studio with the wonderful Anna. Anna is a Pilates studio owner. She owns 2 studios here in Southwest London. I have the pleasure of working with her and for her. She is such an inspirational woman. I'm very excited to get into today's conversation. We're going to be talking about the shift from corporate career into the wellness industry. We're also going to be talking about starting a business alongside starting a family. So if any of that appeals to you, strap in. We are going to go for it. Anna, thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so Anna, why don't you tell us a little bit about sort of your journey post-uni. So you started off in marketing. Mm-hmm. Is that what you went to uni for?
No, I actually studied history of art, which was a bit different. So I actually did a year in the art world, hated it.
Okay.
Then went into marketing. Worked for an agency in London, and then I worked for an agency in Sydney. I did that for 7 years or so, and I just was quite depressed by it. I didn't love it. Felt like I was just churning my way through it, and I was like, is this going to be my life? Because I don't enjoy it.
I don't enjoy it.
And I hit 30 and I had like a junior life crisis, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? And then I moved back to London, and I was like, I'm going to go full time into teaching and just see how I go.
Where in that journey did you find Pilates? Is it something you always did?
So I've always been kind of fitness obsessed. Like I was really big into sport at school.
Okay.
But I actually got into yoga first when I was working in London, just because I was like so stressed by like advertising life, and it was just like my time to just like chill. And then when I was out in Australia, I was teaching yoga, and then my favorite yoga studio had Reformer, and I tried out Reformer, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I just got so into it. Like it really helped sort out all my issues, like on my knee, hip problems. And I was like obsessed with that. And then I started teaching, and I started teaching more and more. And then before you know it, I was doing a full-time job and then working every weekend. So I had like no life. And I just was like, why is my kind of part-time gig, why am I not moving into that area if I love it so much?
Yeah.
But I kind of was like held back. I felt like I needed to stay in a corporate job. I was kind of quite scared of taking that leap, and I just held off for quite a long time, probably too long. And then I was like, you know what, life's too short. I'm just going to give it a go and see how it goes.
I mean, I think like a couple years back, I mean, even just sort of like 5 years ago, the prospect of being sort of in the Pilates industry or just being an instructor of any kind full time, like it was quite daunting. You didn't know many, unless you were sort of like in a locked-in contract with a studio that gave you almost like the same as a 40-hour contract. It was a bit like,
yeah.
And I can imagine, because most of us go straight into it traditionally. Obviously, the game has changed a lot recently, but we would usually you usually see your sort of like actors, singers, musicians, people who are like side hustling constantly. They would end up as instructors. But if you like had a big girl job, if you had like an adult job, then I can imagine that switch over feels a bit like crazy.
Yeah, it did. Felt crazy. And I also felt like always like I might be a bit judged by my parents or whoever just from like giving up that corporate life. But like, and I kind of, for them, they were like, you're about to leave this corporate world for a whole kind of new industry that you don't really have any contacts in at the time, because I just moved back from Australia. And my parents were nothing but supportive. And I was like, I just thought, right, I'm just going to give it a go. And they were like, we'll support anything that you do. And it was just the best decision. I'm so glad I did it,
And how long did you teach for before you decided, okay, cool, I want to create my own space?
Maybe like 2 years, I think. And I felt like I really got really great experience from different studios. I had all my Australia experience as well. And then I kind of just wanted to create my dream studio, really. At the time, there weren't really those like boutique-y studios. Well, there were, but not many. Now they're kind of everywhere. But I just wanted to create my kind of Aussie themed studio. And I just hoped that I'd hire people that I think are good, and that I'd attract the right people, and then the right clients would come along, and we'll go from there, really.
And did you, because I mean your Studio 1 is in Clapham Common, did you always have that in mind as the location, or was that just like when you started looking for a space, you found a space there?
No, I was looking in Clapham actually. I just thought Clapham really needed like a really kind of, well, what I was offering, I think they really needed. And Clapham's great because there's loads of young professionals, it's like mums. It's just like quite a vibey place, and I've just felt that the right people would have come.
I feel like, especially that sort of Clapham Common, Old Town area. I mean, I only moved to London just like a year before COVID, and I lived in Clapham. But I mean, I know that I didn't really do much in that year, and then it was COVID and whatever. But I feel like since it's just like flourished and boomed, like it's such a wonderful space to be in. There's so many different vendors and stores and stuff. So like obviously a great addition to all of that.
Definitely.
Okay, so timeline wise, you're working for yourself, and then once you decided, okay, cool, I'm gonna go for it. I mean, I feel like Avalon came before the boom, just before the boom of like. I mean, at the moment, there's like everyone's starting it. Everyone's opening a studio. It's like what coffee shops were like 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Where all of a sudden, everyone had a coffee shop, but it's not a bad thing. I mean, rather more Pilates studios than more coffee shops, I say. So once you were like, okay, cool, I want to create my own studio, were you like kind of clear on the vision already, or?
Yeah, I think I knew what I wanted. I just had to find the right space. And I looked around a few different spaces that weren't quite right. And then I looked around the space in Clapham, and I was like, this is it, done. I just was like to the stage and I want it. It was off market. So I managed to get in there, like luckily off market. And I was like, yeah, I'll sign on the dotted line. And the owners, you know, they were so nice that they took a risk on someone who hadn't set up a business before, and they got burnt before by the previous tenant. And so I had to kind of really persuade them that I knew what I was doing and that I was worth the investment. And they luckily took a shot on me, and, you know, luckily it all worked out. But, you know, it was a stressful time, I have to say.
I can imagine. Did it all happen quite quickly?
So no, because the legals take about 2 to 3 months, which I didn't realise, like, in terms of getting commercial property set up. So that took a while, but then from there it was like, right, let's go. And then I actually then got a dodgy builder in. I didn't realise. I wrongly thought he was a nice English guy, he'll be great. He was terrible. And my friend's an architect, came look around the space. She was like, you need to fire him. So then it was like back to the drawing board, and I was meant to be opening in January, and I was like, am I going to open in January because now I don't have a builder? It was just awful. It was probably one of the most stressful times of my life. Like, everything went wrong that could have gone wrong. But it somehow kind of managed to pull it all together, and yeah.
And was that 2023? Do I have my timeline right?
God, I actually can't remember. It was like, 2 and a bit years ago. Yeah, or maybe 3. I don't know. My brain's gone.
I think you opened 2024.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all right. It's not important.
My ears have gone bleh.
Okay, so I mean, that's stressful.
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
And in terms of, I mean, I think the space itself, you've made such good use of space. You know, like I always think, I mean, obviously there's people that do this for a profession, but like when you look at an empty space, to imagine what can actually work in that. And I mean, the Clapham site is like, you've done so well to make what essentially presents as just like a straight room into this like studio. You've got a one-to-one space at the back. You've got the studio layout. You've got the front section. Did that all kind of, you had that in mind as well, or how did you go about the design of it?
So I knew I wanted a group space and private space. So private space really for me isn't actually a money maker. It doesn't really make much money, but for me the private space was like a passion project. I love my one-to-ones. I love having all of the equipment there. I wanted to be able to offer clinical Pilates for people that got injuries, and I just thought, actually, you know what, that's something I really care about. But then I also wanted the group space, so that's kind of how I set it up, having the group space at the front, and then at the back have that private space, so we can run one-to-ones and groups at the same time. And it has kind of worked well, and luckily that, you know, that private space has enough people coming in, and it just also allows teachers to practice, and it has kind of worked out well in that sense.
I think it's great, and I think definitely on a spreadsheet, the one-to-one stuff is like, it's slower. The drip feeds versus like 9 beds. You know?
Definitely.
But then you have somewhere where, you know, Avalon runs that great intro offer, and, you know, you're like, okay, cool, you've done these 2 things. It's a nice way to get someone acquainted with the equipment, someone who might be a little bit intimidated. It's a very nice introduction to it, which is great. And tell me more about, like, so you were in Sydney, all right? So you were loving sort of like the Australian style. Came back to London, couldn't quite find that here. What were the biggest sort of differences between reformer Pilates in Australia versus what was on offer in London?
Well, the standard of, I suppose, teaching and the like high standard of fitness in Australia is so different from the UK. And that I was living in Bondi and most people there were like athletes. And so the classes were very intense and challenging. And I came back to London and I was like, I feel like I'm in a kind of like a physio Pilates. It wasn't like for me strong enough or like intense enough. So I really wanted to make sure that I had beginners classes, but I also had like really intense classes for those people that really wanted to push themselves, and also have the variety of the jump board or the pre-postnatal and the mums and bubs and all of that kind of stuff. So I wanted it to be contemporary Pilates, still Pilates, but that kind of Aussie style that you get in terms of like sequencing, class flows, cues, things like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is obviously a big discussion in the Pilates world at the moment, is the whole sort of like contemporary Pilates being more athletic than it was intended to be. But if you go ahead and you look at like Joseph Pilates is 34, like that shit is athletic. I can't do the 34. You're supposed to do it in sequence. It ends with like 10 of the fastest push-ups you've ever seen in your life. It's insane. So
good point.
It literally was like, it was actually created to be like athletic, and it was created on a male body, not actually a female body. And then we took it and we went, oh, let's make it like soft and squishy and whatever. And that obviously, like, it has its place. But also, you know, like, where's the fitness at? Where's the sort of like challenge, which is cool. And I think now what we're witnessing, obviously now there's like loads of studios popping up, blah, blah, blah. And it's not actually that studio styles are different. I think where the actual industry issue comes in is the difference in like education for the instructors.
I agree.
So you, as a Pilates instructor, you're Polestar trained. Polestar is one of the sort of like bigger governing bodies of Pilates, and one of the like older, more established ones. It's older than whatever the 5 years that everyone else has now started getting trained up in. There's nothing wrong with new training bodies. I always say I think they're great. I think evolution is important. However, there is a difference between an 18-month qualification and like 8-hour qualification, of course. In running the studio, do you see a lot of that with sort of like new instructors trying to come in? Is the discrepancy? I'm biased because I'm still a working instructor, and I'm like, well, I did all of this training. But as a studio owner, do you see that as well?
Yeah, definitely. There's new teachers you can really spot from a mile off what training they've done. So if, like, for example, a new Polestar mat teacher reaches out to me and I interview them, I can normally tell that they are further on than a 8-hour course done at the weekend kind of teacher. So I try and avoid taking on new teachers, just because for me, like, the standard of teaching is really high at Avalon, so I want to make sure that that's kind of continued. While, you know, some new teachers though also do have it, like, you know, they do, and they just get it, and they've been to, you know, a lot of clients, actually Avalon clients, become teachers, and you know, you
got to start figuring out how to reward system yourself there, because I think Anna's converted tons of of clients into teachers, which is great. I mean, it tells you that the space is somewhere people come to fall in love with Pilates, you know, definitely. So and like sparks their interest enough and that kind of thing. Okay, so you opened the doors for your first studio 2 years ago. At this time you're about to get married?
Yeah, exactly. About to get married. I then got married that year.
Big year.
Big year.
Okay.
Studio got married.
Wild. And then studio number 2 was not too far away.
Next year,
What was the process of expansion like?
Well, I kind of got halfway through the year, so I'd opened Avalon and Clapham in January, and so kind of around about summertime I was like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to go for studio number 2. I just thought, right, I'm just going to like rip the band-aid off, just go for it, and then found a site in Earlsfield, and just just kind of went for it. Wanted to be open in January. It was way bigger, way more of a stress in terms of the construction. Like, it was a proper like job. I had to get my friend who was an architect in to help, and like it wasn't a simple job, and there were lots of hurdles with that as well, because it's 2 studios in one space. It's a mat studio and then a reformer studio, so kind of getting all new teachers in, and it was just a huge undertaking again.
I guess it's kind of like what they say about like child number 2, right? It's not just like a second of the first. It's usually its own. And I mean, as you say, bigger space. Again, was Earlsfield always sort of like the location, or have you just kind of ended up in Southwest London?
No, I actually, Earlsfield, I really thought, like, it was actually quite funny. At the time, Earlsfield did not have a reformer studio in there, so I'd all gone ahead, set it up. It was Christmas time. I was due to open like 2 weeks later, and I flew back into London from Cape Town, and I got messages on my phone saying, oh, there's 2 Pilates studios opening up in January, and I was like, no. I was so smug that it was just going to be me, but I was like, you know what, healthy competition is about time that Earlsfield has more, to offer. But I just thought Earlsfield was a great spot because, again, lots of young professionals.
It is a hot spot for young professionals and young families.
And lots of South Africans live there as well.
Yeah, loads. We're like the Southwest spread. So it was great. Okay, cool. So now we're in 2 studios, and on top of that, you have a little baby.
I do, yes.
So he's 4.5 months old.
Yeah.
And I mean, all of that happening at once.
Yes. It was full on. Yeah.
Full on.
Intense. Yeah. So I opened also in January. I then was like, right, studio set up January. I'm going to start trying for a baby, expecting that it would take 4 to 6 months longer. And it was actually first time trying. I was like, oh, okay, that happened a bit too fast. No, I'm obviously incredibly grateful to get pregnant quickly, but it just did happen a lot faster than I thought. But luckily Earlsfield was running well by the time I was in the later stages of pregnancy.
But I mean, you basically worked all the way up.
Yeah.
Okay, so like a crazy amount packed into 2-3 years.
Yes.
Can you, like, if you think back to like your 30-year-old self who was like sat in, it's not that long ago either, but sat in your corporate job hating it, could you ever believe that in like a small amount of time you would have like
definitely
turned it
not.
around?
I definitely knew I wanted to set up my own thing eventually, but I didn't think I'd probably do it that fast. And also doing the 2 studios back to back, like, there were definitely times where I was like, why am I doing this to myself? I'm so stressed. Like the stress levels to setting up a studio is it's not for the faint-hearted, for sure. Yeah. And
do you, I mean, from what it sounds like, and from what I've seen, you've pretty much done it all like by yourself. I mean, each studio has a manager, but that's about it. You don't sort of have like an admin team or a...
No, I kind of just do it. I used to work in a studio where the studio owners fell out, and I was like, hell no, I'm never going to do that. I want to just be in charge, run it how I want to run it. Have great managers who do the day-to-day and who are like my support, and they have been amazing and continue to be. And I couldn't do it without them, particularly having a baby. I couldn't do it, but I very much am the one who kind of makes all the final decisions and stuff. And I luckily I've got 3 brothers, and they've all set up their own companies, so actually that's been super useful, going to them for advice as well and support. Like,
so a whole little family of entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
Very cool.
And
very,
I think
very
actually
cool.
seeing them all be quite successful is like, you know what,
why not?
Well,
why not you? Do you know what I mean?
Give
like,
it a go. Why not?
Amazing.
You've got to try it out, and see how it goes.
Amazing. Okay, so you've transitioned through sort of like your teaching, now you've set up the studios, and throughout that, I'm always incredibly interested as a female in business myself. Did you feel like you had a lot of sort of support being a female in business from sort of like female men? Did you have mentors? Did you have a mentor helping you set it up? Were you supported along the way? How did that go?
So I did get a mentor to help set up Clapham in terms of like, how do I even start with a business plan, numbers, all of that kind of stuff, and she was super helpful.
Was she someone you'd worked for in the past?
Nope. I saw in a Facebook group, a studio owner Facebook group, mentorship person that was advertising her services, and I was like, perfect. And she was really sweet, and she was really, really helpful. So, and I love just having someone who's in the industry and
that you can bounce ideas off. Exactly. Not just feel like such a lone boat.
Exactly. And she was great. And then I had a mixed bag in terms of studio owner support. some negative experiences with certain studio owners, and then some wonderful experiences with studio owners helping, mentoring. So like a real mixed bag.
Real
I'd
mixed
say.
bag.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I imagine, so if we look at the industry, even if you just, I mean, you have to have your head like buried under a rock if you don't know what's happened with like the Pilates studio industry. It's just boomed, right? Like it's tons more studios. Everyone knows what Pilates is. Loads more demographics are trying. Men are interested. Athletes are interested. It's no longer this kind of like old lady rehab space, which is great. I imagine from when you were like, this is what I'm going to do, to now, you know, that it's gone from being quite like, there's not many, like there's no studios on the high street to there being 6 studios on the high street. How has that sort of made you feel?
Yeah, I mean, in Clapham particularly quite stressful, because Clapham is highly saturated with studios now.
Yeah.
And I really feel that like the demand has been met. So now we have to like prove ourselves through making sure high quality of teachers, making sure the experience is good enough, because you know, if the quality is not there, then the numbers will just drop. So definitely I feel the pressure more in Clapham, I'd say, for sure, less so in Earlsfield.
Do you think Earlsfield is also slightly more like communal based?
Yeah, more locals, more.
I always think this is the difficult thing, because people always say, oh, like the location, but like with the location, so for example, like that, the Clapham studio is obviously right on the tube line, like it's super easy, so you can get like transient business. I mean, I know some of my regulars, like they live in like Waterloo or even in East London, but because it's just the Northern Line, they're still happy to come down, which I think is kind of crazy, but if they want to come see us, then that's fantastic, you know, but everyone sort of wants that like location access, but then you don't always foster the same community access because it's not necessarily a communal environment. Like, I mean, Clapham Common is, but it also isn't, because there's so much option.
Yes.
Right. I mean, there's like 6 fresh grocers. Like you can only have a relationship with.
Yeah, so true.
You know what I mean? So then in some cases being in that sort of like home comfy, like suburban, I mean, Earlsfield is not suburban, but it's more suburban.
It does feel more suburban than Clapham.
Yeah, then you kind of get more of like do you see that reflecting in sort of like memberships and versus like drop-ins and stuff, I'd imagine?
Clapham's a bit more transient, more kind of drop-ins, while Earlsfield are more like local members who come consistently. So yeah,
nice. Well, it's worked out quite nicely then that like the Earlsfield has that sort of like bigger offering.
Yes.
And
yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about becoming a mum at the same time as becoming this like epic empire business owner. I mean, obviously, as we know, like we've got a bit of a clock, so we can't put it off forever. You also don't want to, right? If you want a family. Was having a family something you were always very clear on?
Yeah. I always knew I wanted to have a family, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. So you knew, all right, this needs to be factored in.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So I thought, do 2 studios, have a baby, and then see.
And then see how we go.
How we go, yeah.
And how did you find pregnancy?
Horrible. I mean, it's funny, like me and my best friend were pregnant at the same time. She just had an absolute dream. She just was totally fine. I found it really hard. Like, I kept fit and stuff, but I really struggled with my with pelvic girdle pain, which I kind of thought was if you weren't exercising and fit. Yeah. And I couldn't, towards the end I couldn't sit down for like.
You're like, I'm crazy fit and now I can't do anything.
I couldn't do anything. I got really bad indigestion. I just struggle, with it. Suddenly, you just feel like this big whale, and you just like can't move. And I just for someone who's so kind of active and fit, I really struggled with that for sure. So it was not easy, and nor was the recovery at all. I thought, if I'm exercising up until I give birth, I'll be all right. And I thought, I'm going to choose a vaginal versus C-section birth. I thought if it's kind of all okay, then surely the recovery will be fine. But again, like I was absolutely floored for weeks, and it's definitely a lot harder than I thought it'd be. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's so difficult because I mean, it's you hear some of like the best stories, right? And then you just don't know. You
never know what's going to come.
You just kind of roll the dice.
Yeah.
And I can imagine for someone who's so, like, you're such an active business owner, you know what I mean? So, like, you're active as in activity, fitness, blah, blah, but also, like, you're in the business, you're there, you know, on like boots on the ground almost every single day.
Yeah.
Want to be a part of it. You were teaching quite a fair bit as well.
Yeah.
You don't, I mean, okay, baby aside, do you had you already started reducing sort of before that, or did your actual teaching hours, or?
Yeah, once I discovered I was pregnant, I kind of kept going normally, and then as I got more and more pregnant, I started cutting back and handing it over, and then towards the end, I gave them all away in the last kind of month or so, just in case.
Do you miss that? Do you miss the teaching aspect of it?
Yeah, I actually taught for the first time today, and actually I definitely did miss it, but I also like, wow, this is quite exhausting and tiring, because I'm so like still in the baby phase when your brain is just just not there.
Also, you haven't done it in a while.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, if I take a week off, I come back, I'm like, do I remember how to do this?
Yeah, it's literally the same thing. I was like, what's going on? But I kind of got back into the swing quite quickly. But like, it is exhausting. I think I definitely, since having a baby, you're just, things are just a bit more overwhelming, I'd say, than, you know,
of course,
than it used to be.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, now that you are like sort of doing it all, like, you know, running a business, running sort of like your dream business, and starting a family, what do you think the next couple of years look like?
Yeah, good question.
Just more and more?
More and more. Yeah, I mean, I know that we want to have, well, we decided we want to have at least 2 or hopefully 3 children. So that's quite scary, doing it all over again twice. But at the same time, I know that it'll be worth it in the end. So that's, you know.
So you're from a big family yourself.
Yes, yeah, there's 4 of us.
It was 4 of you.
Yeah, exactly.
And James,
he's from 2 actually.
Okay.
And I've seen kind of the dynamics of 2 versus 4, and like it's just more of a gang when there's 4 of you, and I definitely would not do 4, but I don't know, I just think I'm going to try and do 3, but also let's see, we might do 2 and might be like, actually, you know what, we're done, but we'll just kind of see how we go. And then, you know, I do want to do a 3rd studio as well sometime, so that sort of obviously needs to be factored in sometime, and again, we'll just see how that goes. And
do you reckon like Southwest London is now your jam, or?
Not necessarily. I think Southwest London's actually quite saturated, so I think it'd be, I don't know is the answer. I think maybe west, but maybe not southwest. I don't know. I'm just going to kind of see what spaces I find, see what kind of suits.
Amazing. Okay, so an exciting couple years coming up.
Yeah, definitely.
It just keeps going.
Yeah, it keeps going. Doesn't stop.
Obviously, here at The Simple Fix, we are looking at ways to just like simplify getting into the life that we want to get into. So in all of this, do you have a few things that have kept you sort of grounded, some like go-tos that you try and never lose sight of? Maybe you have lost sight of them and you've needed to get them back, anything like that?
Yeah, I'd say exercise has been kind of my main thing that has kind of kept me grounded, kept kind of those happy endorphins keep, you know, coming in, and also just that time to myself where I can just be with my mind and body, because definitely when I get more stressed and anxious, like and I definitely have like spiraled in when I was doing advertising back in the day, of just getting so anxiety induced by my job. So anything that I can do like yoga or Pilates just kind of help ground me down. I also do a bit of meditation to help. I've got this little Shakti mat that I sleep on before bed with my red face mask, you know, the LED face mask, and just like that just chills me out. I think, and just trying to just still have a life as well, in terms of just still see friends, and just try and, you know, when you have a very stressful day, try and, you know, not get swept up in work, and just try and have time to yourself and your friends, and just kind of look after yourself.
Do you think as a business owner, prioritizing your life outside of the business makes you a better sort of like people manager? Yeah,
definitely. I think you have to look after yourself as well, for sure, because definitely. I think otherwise you don't really know what's going on, and I feel like you need to be able to have your head switched on, and if you don't look after yourself, then your head's not fully switched on, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, we see a lot in these sort of like boutique spaces. Obviously, the person who has set it up, the owner, the founder, they've gone through a hell of a lot to get there, and there's a hell of a lot of stress on their shoulders. But you're also, you know, you don't just own a Pilates studio, you are managing a team of people who all have their own personas who are then managing a room full of people. There's so many like energy exchanges.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can say quite comfortably as an instructor, is like if you are working for someone who is struggling to manage their own energy, then those outputs can be very negative. And when you're coming, as we all know about a toxic work environment, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in the studio life as well. It's
definitely.
like you then come in, you're feeling the stress of the owner, you're then feeling stressed, the consumers are then feeling stressed,
completely.
which then means the business isn't doing well, and all of that just feeds itself. So it's really refreshing to hear. I mean, sometimes we chat to I think some sort of like older generation studio owners who are, you know, they've almost let the stress win a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's just not a great space to then be in.
Yeah.
It sounds very like Gen Z of me, but I don't mean it in a sense of like things aren't stressful. Things are very stressful, of course, and you have to pay the bills and you have to get things off the ground and you have made sacrifice. But I think it's just refreshing to hear that there's a better way to manage that.
Yeah, completely. And I think it's so important for the teachers that work for you to respect you and just be a nice human, and just like, because I really found all the different studios I worked at, like the studio owners that I respected, I wanted more shifts with them. While the studio owners that didn't give me much back, I was like, I'm not really sure that this relationship is right for me. So I really try and make sure that I kind of create a good, positive environment for everyone, so it feels like a nice place to work. Otherwise, you know, teachers will just move on.
Yeah. So on that note, I mean, obviously now with the industry sort of booming, is that something that as a studio owner is, I mean, I imagine it is very stressful, like people moving around a lot, losing your instructors.
Yeah.
How do you approach that?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, retention of instructors is so important. Like the first person that any client sees really is the teacher. And, you know, I've heard firsthand from people who said, oh, that teacher was bad, I'm never going to go again. And I think it's so important to have the right team. And I think the quality of your studio is really the quality of the teachers. Yes, I can do so much, but really, if the quality isn't there, then they'll just go elsewhere. So I think it's so important to retain teachers and try and keep them on as much as you can. But then at the same time, teachers that aren't, you know, suitable to your brand, also, you know, letting them go. So it's kind of a mix, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to highlight that when it's such a like people specific and people driven thing, it must be quite overwhelming to manage, because it's not supposed to be personal, it's just supposed to be business, but obviously it feels really personal, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not saying to someone that their design or their build isn't up to scratch. You're literally going like, I don't like this, or not, like this energy isn't right, or you know, what you're bringing to the table isn't, and it feels like, you know, or vice versa, when an instructor no longer wants to be there, it must feel, you know, it's a personal gig.
Yeah.
Do you think that you managed to keep, you know, sort of like, I imagine from sort of being surrounded by 3 boys growing up, you've got a thick skin and you're able to just, you know,
definitely
open conversation. Let's call it what it is. Let's address things.
Yeah,
and
completely. I'm very direct, maybe too direct at times, but no, definitely. And I think if, you know, a teacher's consistently getting negative reviews, I will call her up and have a chat, or he up and have a chat about it, because I think it's just so important to make sure that, you know, they're happy, but also I'm happy, and it's kind of a working relationship. So yeah, I'm very open and honest, and I also welcome feedback back to me, you know, with my manager. I'm like, you know, tell me what I'm doing that's annoying, and so we can kind of have a working, you know, positive working relationship. Yeah,
I think that's you know, it is a massive game changer. I mean, I've worked for multiple studios, and not all of them bad, not all of them great, for different reasons, you know, because as you know from your working days as well, there's a lot to it. There's the environment that's created, there's the sort of behind the scenes, how tricky that is, how much resistance you're met with. And it's refreshing to be around a female-based owner who is unemotional about it, because I think as women, you know, we want to be equals in the business space, but then sometimes we don't behave that way.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
yeah.
sometimes we are behaving in an emotional way. We're taking things too personally, or we're blurring the lines, or we're not being direct enough. And it's difficult. We are only human. We are more emotional beings typically. So, yeah, I think it must be difficult. I think you do an excellent job.
Thanks, Kerryn.
So that's,
I try.
I think you can be very, very proud of yourself. You might be like crying behind the doors, but you've definitely created a space where, we can communicate, we can call out, we've got issues, like you don't have to, I talk to people all the time that are like, I need to tell, the studio owner this, and I don't know, and maybe I need to do this, and I'm like, just pick up the phone and message him. What are you talking about? Like, they also can't fix the problem until they know what it is. And now you've waited 5 days before you've said something because you're stressed.
Completely agree.
But it's just that thing of being like, okay, you're not well, let me fix it, versus like, let me waste too much time on this issue. Which you do astoundingly well. I mean, until I went back to Avalon, I had given up teaching group classes altogether because I didn't want to deal with studio owners. So that was really, really refreshing, which I think will be will be one of the many reasons that Avalon is successful, because I don't think, I think obviously there's going to be a rise of studios. I think that instructors are transient and so are clients. But if you've created sort of like a brand and a system that works, it'll surf the waves, which is cool.
We hope.
Yeah, no, I think it will. Okay, so fantastic to hear about the whole journey. It's like seriously epic. There's so much going on. And now we're going to go to the Simple Fix rapid fire questions. So, Anna, the first thing I want to ask you is, what is one of your favorite Pilates moves?
I would say the teaser on the reformer.
Okay, and what spring do you do it on?
Ooh, red, but can be on a blue if I'm feeling a bit.
If you're feeling in control.
Definitely a red now, yeah.
Yeah, tease on the reformer. It's one of those where like it's so unforgiving, so that when you nail it, you're like,
wow.
I'm the king of the world.
You feel amazing. So true. I haven't attempted it since being
I tried
pregnant.
to teach it in actually my one of my intense classes on the weekend, and
how'd it go?
It was good. Bless. I had Ilaria in the class. She's one of the Avalon instructors, but she doesn't like the curl up movements. So, and I often like, when you've got an instructor in the class, you go to them.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she was like, I can't do it. And I was like, no, help me. It's like folding her up.
That's hilarious.
Oh, we had a good laugh. Afterwards, she was like, we need to do that more often. I was like, we will, don't worry. Okay, what is one of the biggest Pilates myths?
That Pilates is just for women. Men really should be doing Pilates. It's so good for you, particularly as men. I find, particularly as they age, a lot stiffer and less mobile, and it's just so beneficial for them. But men are quite often intimidated by a class full of women, which I do understand. But like particularly in Australia, there were way more men coming, and I don't know. There's still a bit of a thing over here where it's like, oh, it's just for women.
I think Avalon does quite well. I think we've got
good.
quite a few men through the door. I would say, like more than I've ever, anywhere else, which is, I think you can really be like proud of. Because guys, get yourself into the Pilates class. It's so good for you. And if you think it's going to be easy, it's definitely not as well. And if you are already training for something else, or you're getting into any form of training, it's going to give you longevity within that training as well, because it's going to be taking care of your mobility, your recovery, and sort of like, all the important bits that you're missing.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like when men start, they then just get hooked and love it, and they just like keep coming back every week. Like they just need to try it, get the foot through the door, and then they'll often stay. Yeah,
you just got to get through the propaganda, right? It's kind of like women not wanting to lift weights because we don't want to, like get over the propaganda and just realize, like, as I said like in the beginning of the episode, a lot of it was built for a male body, actually. So there's a lot for men in Pilates. Get yourself through the door.
Definitely.
Okay, so being someone who has quite successfully done the big leap from corporate, oh my God, is this the rest of my life, to a whole different level of stress, but hopefully more positive stress.
Okay.
What is a bit of advice that you would give anyone who feels a bit stuck in their career?
I would say just follow what you're interested in. So many people are kind of stuck with what they want to do in life, and I just feel like don't coast for the rest of your life. Pilates was my interest, so I followed it, and then it became my passion, and then it became my job, but only because I just put my attention there. So take the risk, I would say. You know, it's terrifying taking that jump, and even, you know, when I set up the studio, it was huge financial risk and it was terrifying, and I'm like, why am I doing this? But I just was like, you know what, I'm just going to give it a red hot shot and just see how it goes. So back yourself, be confident. You know, I remember my brother saying to me, how do you know that people are going to come, you know, to your studio? And I was like, I have no idea. I just feel like, you know, obviously I've done my business plan and I've done this and that, but, you know, I really had no idea. I just was like, people will come if it's something that I believe in, and, you know, something that I like. Surely other people will think the same. So yeah, take the leap.
Take the leap and back yourself.
Yeah,
I think that's epic.
Yeah.
Anna, thank you so much for your time here on The Simple Fix. Hopefully we'll have you back soon. You are definitely a female founder in my ecosystem that is super impressive and continues to be so down to earth at the same time, which I really appreciate. And it's nice to know that you are still out there. Successful people can be cool as well.
Thanks, Kerryn.
Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and subscribe and keep up to date. If you are in the Southwest London area and you haven't checked out Avalon yet, make sure to get yourself through the door, either at their Clapham studio or their Earlsfield studio. They really do hire the best.
Thanks.